Thanks for tuning in to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, coming to you from the gun store here in Las Vegas. This program is all about guns, politics, and self-defense. Just a note to let viewers know, our shows are now being archived on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, you will find most all our previous shows and the new ones as we roll along. On this panel discussion, we're going to talk about an interesting robbery case took place in Daytona Beach, Florida, where there's a little confusion as to who's going to do what when the bad guys came in. And we're going to address some of the issues with the rampage we just had in Santa Barbara, California. In fact, of the state of California now starting to produce laws that are just an amazing knee-jerk reaction to that tragedy. Our first segment, however, is going to be talking about this gas station robbery. This is a Sunoco gas and convenience store. Last month had 3 armed robbers drop by at about 2:30 in the morning. One pushed the owner back against the counter with his gun in order to empty the cash register. The owner later said he considered at that point pulling out his concealed firearm.
Well, you know, I can understand why he would have wanted to pull his firearm, but there were 3 suspects with the guns. One of them had a shotgun, and those odds are less than attractive. So I think he made the right decision in not doing it at that particular time.
Now, the odds of 3-1 is not a good thing. And I guess the other clerk that was there, he was also armed, so everybody had a gun in this particular situation. But did they have a plan? Would the other clerk follow the lead of the owner of the store? If he drew his gun, what would have happened then? Anyway, the bad guys got $450 in cash and some cigars and took off and went and got in their van where another accomplice was driving or waiting to drive the getaway car.
Well, as the car started moving, the clerk and the owner ran after them in the moving vehicle, trying to flee the scene, in the Nissan SUV. And they put about, I think, 8 rounds into it is what they said, but you don't know exactly how many, because their exact words were that they filled the vehicle full of holes. So there's that. Was that a good idea? Was that a proper terminology that they should have used, defense attorney?
First of all, they shouldn't have been talking to the media. And, you know, whether or not shooting at the vehicle, that's a question of what was actually going on at the time. Generally speaking, never a good idea to shoot at somebody when they're fleeing after the threat is passed. However, the owner did say he feared for his life. He had been there a very long time. I think he'd come in at 9 the morning before and was still on shift at 2:30. And then he gave an interesting statement to the media, and it was that, you know, I'm hearing somebody like that's going to come and rob me. I mean, I'm not going to accept it. And all I could hear in my voice was Robert De Niro, you going to rob me? You know, and they reacted probably out of anger after the car was going away, not fear.
One would think, in most of these situations, there are no really good answers. You're left with a series of bad choices. If the victims don't engage the robbers immediately, they may be facing robbers who are intending to kill all the witnesses anyway. On the other hand, could the one armed guy who knew he was going to draw safely try to take on 3 guys, or was that a realistic choice?
Well, chasing them with gunfire probably means they're not going to go back and hit that particular store, knowing now that the clerk and owner, they can and will shoot them. But the endangering, possibly, any witnesses or people surrounding this vehicle, shooting it full of holes as it was driving away, that could have had a much different result. This could have had some unfortunate outcomes. And
it could, but the other thing is, even in the store, when they probably were well within their rights, when the one came in, I think it was a shotgun, he put it in the owner's chest and pushed him behind the counter. The question there is, did everybody in the store know who else was armed? And had they ever talked about, what do we do in this situation? Who does what? Do we all stand quietly and let him rob it until somebody does something wrong? obviously shooting at a moving vehicle as it's fleeing, that's probably not a good idea. But if you're going to carry a firearm, especially in a location where others carry firearms, communicate with them and understand how everybody should react. So, because what would have happened if one of them had drawn a firearm and started a gunfight? Everybody would have been in a gunfight, and it would probably have gone poorly in a small area like that because these guys were amped up.
And the other thing is, you know, because they have CCWs doesn't mean that they are well trained in firearms tactics, and you can imagine that their adrenaline was you know, coursing through their blood, which might explain the reaction of chasing them out and just opening fire out of frustration because they got away, and that's, it's not an excuse, but it's unfortunately that's part of what the physiology and untrained people may do.
It'll be a defense if it comes up. Absolutely
Right.
part of the defense.
But you got to have a plan. If you're working a place like this that gets hit with robbers, talk to the other people there so that you know if you draw your gun, the other guy is going to draw his gun too, and not just watch you get shot by 3 guys. Got to let everybody know what's going on, but you got to plan ahead. We don't know where they're coming in, what time of day, where they're going to be standing, but you got to have a general idea of what you're going to do. Think about it ahead of time. You won't get caught like these guys did. We'll be right back after a few messages.
Our panel discussion will continue right after this. Did you miss the show this week? Don't worry, check us out on our YouTube channel, Fired Up with Bob Irwin. Hi, it's Emily, and I'm coming to you from the Shotgun Wedding Chapel here at the Gun Store in Las Vegas, where you can book your shotgun wedding ceremony, vow renewal, or commitment ceremony. You're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
And we are back. The recent horrendous murderer that they had in Santa Barbara near the university there has obviously caused a lot of press. A lot of people have looked at it for various reasons, but a couple of legislators in California have discovered that that individual fell through the cracks in California law. He apparently was in compliance with all the firearms laws and so forth that he had to do to get those guns, so they are writing some statutes to fix that.
He had filled out the forms, passed all the necessary background checks. He had waited the time periods in order to get the firearms. He took safety classes and even had legal California 10-shot magazines on his person.
Just like any other criminal bent on mayhem, murder, destruction, whether it be with a knife, a BMW, a gun, any other way, they're still going to commit the crime. Murder is murder. They're going to find a way to do it no matter what weapon is available to them. They'll find a way.
No, there was one thing missing from this incident, and that is an armed citizen that had the ability to fire back at this guy. Yeah. You know, the police did shoot him during this thing, but not fatally before he shot himself. But think of this: if someone had a CCW in that little deli or that restaurant that he walked into, that thing could have ended right there, as opposed to the destruction and the death that he wreaked upon those innocent people.
You know, and California is reacting. They're trying to draft some laws, and in typical gun grabber, tone-deaf fashion, they're going after firearms. Let's ignore the fact that he stabbed 3 people to death, that he struck at least 2 individuals with his car and severely injured them. He could have done considerable damage with that BMW as a weapon. But AB 1014, which is going to be, it's in the works right now in California with their legislature, will almost certainly pass some variation of this, would provide that anyone who thinks another person is a danger and has a firearm can obtain something called a gun violence restraining order. And if that is obtained and issued, that prevents the person from having custody, control, purchasing, possessing, or receiving a firearm for up to 1 year. As a side effect of it, the judge could then order law enforcement to go out and collect up any firearms they already have, because that would solve them committing a crime.
It's insanity.
This doesn't apply, you don't have to actually know the person. You can actually do this from long distance. If you can go into court and sign an affidavit under oath that this guy, our cameraman, for instance, has appears to me to be suicidal, he might harm himself, and you swear that's true, the judge can actually issue that order that he can't purchase guns, can't have guns, and if he already has a gun, send the local constabulary out to pick up those guns.
There's no way that this is going to pass some legal scrutiny. I mean, as insane as they are in California, you have to wish that once they rise above that and it gets legally challenged, that cooler heads are going to say this is some draconian insanity here.
Well, they're going to pull his driver's license too because he used a BMW. He's going to take his kitchen his kitten. You can't go to the cutlery store. I mean, where's it going to end? I mean,
not surprisingly, it's only guns.
Yeah.
There you go.
When under the proposal is written, the probable cause determination is done without consent or knowledge or anything of the gun owner. I mean, this is just something that happens because someone's mad at me behind my back. They just write a letter and have it signed under oath, and then they take my guns.
Yeah,
right? Is that how?
Can you say ex-wives lining up?
And that really is what's
So-
kind of going on here in the drafting. Obviously, it'll get pared down somewhat, and they'll put some safeguards in there. But the general premise is a judicial officer, a judge, is going to have to review this affidavit and decide whether or not it's legitimate, whether or not the threats or the concern rise. Hey, my husband has guns and we just got divorced and I think he's going to kill me. Probably doesn't get there unless you've got an anti-gun judge. But
think of the political, the political nature of this and how it's going to affect those judges. Do you think that they want to be the one that didn't grant this?
Exactly.
They'll
because
just
what'll happen
blanketly sign it.
What'll happen is some judge will not sign one, and that person will do something deadly, whether with a gun or not, and it will come back on the judge. They'll all
It'll come
get
back on the
signed.
judge. I went there and I asked him to sign it. I told him what happened. He wouldn't issue it, and then my husband killed our children.
But we've already seen something similar to this. The gentleman in Washington, D.C., who we talked about on a past episode, who had a spent shell and some bullets. That started because his estranged wife called the police and said.
And he went to jail.
And he
That's
went to
the
jail.
point.
Well, with this thing here, I heard that the officers, when they interviewed him in his, went to his house and talked to this kid, that they did have the opportunity to research if he did buy guns, and the cops didn't do that
didn't do it.
background.
They
so,
didn't watch the video, and he actually said on his blog, if they had walked into my room, my plan would have ended immediately.
Yeah.
Because he had the stuff there.
right.
Yeah, but based on the information that they had, they couldn't go into his apartment because that would have been illegal.
No.
If he-
They'll
if
be
they had
able
asked-
to now.
Yeah. But if they'd
Under
asked, he
this.
probably would have let him in.
Sure, they can go, and now this specifically would allow it when this law passes.
Absolutely.
They're carrying out the direction of the court. You'll hear more about this. You people living in California, you can start making your lists of who you want to take their guns away from, people you don't like, and the forms will be ready shortly for you to sign. We're going to end our panel discussion part right now. I want to point out to everybody, we also recently started a companion radio show. We are on the air here on Saturday evenings from 6 to 7 Pacific time on KDWN radio, or on your internet. They broadcast the show at kdwn.com. Live call in if you want to discuss something we've had on the show. That's your chance to get a hold of us one-on-one. Saturday nights, 6 p.m., kdwn.com.
Hi, I'm Greg, and welcome to the Gun Store in Las Vegas. Here at the Gun Store, we're here to help you, where we have a huge selection of firearms. When you're in Las Vegas, stop by and see us. Guns, politics, and self-defense. That's Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
Thanks for watching Fired Up. We're at a time in our show now where we're going to take some questions from our viewers. You guys can email us at questions@firedupwithbob.com, and you can ask any questions of Bob or any of the panelists that we have here on the show. Our first question says, what's the best pistol for home defense for women? Bob?
Wow. That really depends on height, weight, physical strength, a lot of things. In general, we recommend 38 caliber revolvers, either with a 4 or 2-inch barrel. They're fairly easy to handle and easy to learn to shoot and easy to keep safely in your house. So that's the short answer, 38 special revolvers.
Our next question says, I had a felony 15 years ago. How long before I can own a gun? We get this question a lot, actually. We do.
This one comes in all the time, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings, but how long you have to wait is the rest of your life. Once you're convicted of a felony, you can no longer possess firearms, and that is a hard and fast rule. Currently, the ATF is not even allowed to review cases where you're saying that, you know, I've had a pardon, I've had this or that. They will theoretically release them on a presidential pardon, but that hasn't happened yet. So basically,
Don't get a felony.
You're done. Don't get a felony, no more guns.
Our next question says, when I get my green card, may I buy firearms?
Basically, yes. If you're a resident of the United States, you're allowed to buy firearms in the United States. It's residency that they require, not citizenship. So theoretically, on a green card, we use them for ID all the time. You have to be able to prove you've lived here so long and so forth. But the answer is yes, you can. When you're a legal resident, you're allowed to buy guns.
Thanks for watching. We took some time to answer your questions. Please feel free to write us at questions@firedupwithbob.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Mason, coming to you from one of the VIP ranges here at the gun store in Las Vegas. And you're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
Hi, it's Tony D with the gun store in Las Vegas. Thanks for watching Fired Up with Bob. Today's historical gun is the Beretta Model 38A, which is the quintessential World War II submachine gun. It was a very, very popular gun. It was designed by a guy named Tullio Marangione, and he was Beretta's chief designer. He actually lived at the Beretta factory. He worked it from the 1930s all the way up to the 1960s when he died. The magazine that this gun uses, he designed it, and it was copied by the Israelis. Basically, it's an Uzi type mag. The AR-15 or the M16 in 9mm uses basically the same type of mag. So he designed it, and a lot of other manufacturers copied it. This gun here is an old school gun. It's wood stock, and if you notice, it has 2 triggers on it. And the Italians, they did the front trigger was for semi-automatic fire. The back trigger was for full automatic fire. And they made the front trigger smooth so you can feel which trigger you were pulling. Unique thing about this gun, it ejects from the left side. And everybody said, well, almost all submachine guns eject from the right side, but this one ejects from the left. And the main thing that they think about it, that Mr. Marangione, the designer, was left-handed. All right? Never proved it. We never really verified it. But this gun was in production from the 30s all the way up until the 60s in different variations. It's a very, very reliable gun. Old school had a bayonet lug. Not too many people had bayonets on submachine guns, but it's a very, very classic gun. It's a very, very nice shooting weapon. This gun also shoots 9mm, and it also shoots about that same rate of fire, about 450 to 550 rounds a minute. I'm going to insert the magazine, and we're going to do a couple on semi-automatic, and then we're going to do a couple on full automatic. As you can see, it's a very fine, smooth shooting weapon. Again, one of my favorites.
You're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin, coming to you from the gun store in Las Vegas.